Good day everyone, I am Ellen Grace Reyes Taraba. Today I will be discussing to all of you about a social conflict theories. So social conflict theories represent a variety of viewpoints on the role of conflict, power, inequality, and constructing society. So social conflict theory explain how power, inequality, and social struggle shape into society. This says that the group with more power often create a system that would benefit them and disadvantage others. So first is the Marxist theory. So Marxist theory says that society is shaped by a conflict between two social classes, which are the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. So the bourgeoisie, it is a ruling class or the capitalist, and then ang proletariat kay mao ni siya ang mga working class. So this conflict affects many areas of Philippine society. First is the economic structure. So according to Marxist theory, the capitalist class exploit the working class. So meaning the ruling class would benefit more than a workers. So like for example, a store. So ang owner sa sari-sari store kay mo ni siya ang ruling class and capitalist, and then ang mga workers mo ni siya ang mga working class. So, even if nagatrabaho ang mga workers 7 to 7, ginaswelduhan sila pero dili sa minimum rate, which is unfair kay ang nagabenefit gihapon kay ang ruling class or capitalist. So the second one is the political system. So as we all know, here in the Philippines, political dynasty and corruptions are relevant issues here in our country, specifically in corruptions about a flood control project. So even if we have a strong evidence to fight back against them, as a citizens, as we can see, wala justice nga nahitabo because ang power na sa ilaha. And then, in terms of political dynasty, so ang political dynasty mo na siya ang mga family member nga naga-lingkod sa isa ka politics. So next one is a social inequality. So social inequality, it is all about a social status, a wide gap between a poor and the rich. So basically, if dato ka, you can provide everything because you have a stable of financial stability. You can provide a quality healthcare of your children and your family, and then also you can send your children in a quality education. While if pobre ka kay because of lack of financial stability, you cannot provide everything. You cannot send your children in a quality education, and then you cannot provide a quality healthcare in your family. So next is all about agricultural issues. So land ownership has long been unequal ever since. Kay tungod ang mga landlords ginahold nila ang land redistribution sa mga farmers. So, instead na 100% ang gihatag sa mga farmers, ang gibuhat sa mga landholding families kay 20% ang gihatag sa mga farmers, and then ang 80% na sa ilaha. So, it is very unequal. So, si Marxist theory kay nag-support siya about sa land distribution and then protection sa mga farmers. So, ni-fight siya against sa mga large landholding family. Next is a feminist theory. So, feminist theory is an interdisciplinary approach that investigates gender inequality, discrimination, and the unequal redistribution of power in society. So, feminist theory examines the gender inequality, discrimination, and uneven power between men and the woman. So first is the gender inequality. So here in the Philippines, feminist perspective highlight the unfairness in education, job, politics, and healthcare. So way back then, even if ang mga babae kay degree holder, if mga apply og trabaho kay murag dili sila gina-priority, set aside sila kay tungod ang women ginasin as a subordinate to men, which is dapat ang mga babae kay sa balay lang siya mag-alaga sa mga anak, tas pagsilbihan ang asawa. And then, ang mag-provide sa family kay ang man. And then, next is a women right movement. So, the purpose of the women right movement by Gabriela is to achieve a women liberation and equality. So si Gabriela way back then kay naga-campaign siya about sa women's safety, reproductive rights and education and protection from violence and so on and so forth. So as we all know nowadays we have a law nga gi-implement about sa protections sa mga women which is the VAUSI. Next is the political engagement. So, feminist ideas encourage more women to lead in political governance and decision making. And also in terms of political engagement, si Gabriela ang one who worked towards a democratic government where the women voices heard and then to be respected. Next one is a labor and employment. So, feminist theory have affected conversation about fair labor standard. So, way back then, ang women work in a low-paid or vulnerable job. So, ang feminist theory nagasupport siya sa fair wages and then safer workplace and stronger protection for a women workers. Next is a gender-based violence. So, it has sparked measures to combat domestic abuse, sexual harassment, and human trafficking through legal reform. So, gender-based violence, it exposes the seriousness of domestic abuse, a sexual harassment, and then trafficking, and then so on and so forth. So, if these instances maka-experience ang mga women, pwede sila mag-file og case about a Republic Act number 7877, the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, and then also about a VAUSI, the Republic Act of 9262, also known as the Anti-Violence Women Act of 2004. So this law, gi-implement ni siya para sa protection sa mga women. Next is a challenging traditional gender roles. So feminist philosophy questions established gender roles and conventions. So meaning, ang feminist thought kay naga-question siya about the strict roles between men and women. And also, nag-achieve po siya about education and then promoting equality policies in everyday life.
So good evening everyone. I would like to introduce myself. I am reporter 2 and I am Ubao Maria. I am reporting you the chapter 10 social conflict theory of critical theory number 3. So the critical theory is a way of studying society that focus on questioning power, examining social problems, and understanding how institutions affects people. It looks at culture, politics, education, and other system of understanding why inequality happens. This theory begins with the Frankfurt School led by educator like Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno. Includes Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno, Herbert Marcuse, and others. So, this theory, instead of blaming individuals alone of a crime or problems, critical theory says that social structure, unfair system and power imbalance also play a big role. Parang ginasabi niya God nga na hindi lang tao ang may kasalanan kundi ang sistema rin. In the Philippines, it helps explain education, media, politics, culture, and social justice issues. So, let's begin in education. I would like to explain to you about this. So, education, the critical theory has influenced education and discourage in the Philippines by promoting a critic social structures and conversations. So, critical theory encourage students to think deeply and questions unfair system. Like it helps them to understand bakit may mga bagay na hindi patas ginatudluan man sila nadawaton ang tanan nga informations but to analyze it, like hindi lang dawat na ng dawat, but they have to analyze it or sabton dapat nila. Next is media and communications. Critical theory has sparked investigations into media presentation and communication structures in the Philippines. So, this means it guides people to look at media more carefully. It shows how some message may be basis or may favor certain groups. Makatabang ni sa mga tao nga mas maging aware kung unsay tinuod ug unsay dili sa media. So the political governance and critical view were used to examine political system and governance in the Philippines. This means in critical theory helps people understand how powerful works in the government. Like it highlights issues like corruptions, power concentrations, and unfair laws. Sa Tagalog pa, like ginatabangan ta para makita kung unsa ginaabuso ang kapangyarihan sa politika, like yung mga peoples, they using their status, especially sa mga naay mga parte sa governance, they using their powers to take down sa mga mas nakababa sa ila. So next is the cultural institution. This critical theory promotes an investigation of cultural norms, beliefs, and practices in the Philippines. So, these parts encourage representing different cultures, in challenge dominant or traditional beliefs that might silence or other groups. Mas open sila sa ibang pananaw kaysa sa mas inclusive sa ila or understanding or varied cultural norms in history. So yeah, cultural institutions. So next is the critical theory. Critical theory of social movement or social justice supports efforts to fight poverty, inequality, and discriminations. It gives a framework para mas maintindihan ang cause of problems. Useful siya sa mga activists and advocates who wants to change. So it has influenced the social justice movement in the Philippines also. So, yeah. Lastly is intersectionality. This critical theory emphasizes on intersectionality, a paradigm that explores how many social identities overlap and influence on perceived experience. So it means this explains how different identities like gender, class, race, or combines to create unique experiences. It helps us understand bakit ang ibang mas naapektuhan ng inequality. In simple terms, dagan factors na nga naga-overlap ug makaapekto sa kinabuhi sa tao. Overall, the critical theory helps us to understand that many social issues comes from systems, not just individuals. By questioning, analyzing, and understanding these structures, society can become more fair and aware. Sa madaling salita, it teaches us to open our eyes to hidden problems in our society. So I would like to continue the report. So the next is the number 4, race conflict theory. The race conflict theory, it explains how race, ethnicity, and mga cultural difference can create a conflict in society in the Philippines. That's the history of colonization in our diverse groups. Nagkaroon ng iba't ibang social classes and inequalities here in the Philippines. So, I would like to tell you that I will report the six parts of the race conflict theory. First is the historical conflict. Historical context. This shows how our past especially Spanish and American colonization, shaped today's social divisions. Kasali dito ang pagka-stratify ng mga tao based sa ethnicity, social level, and backgrounds natin today. So, next is the discrimination and equality. This is the racial and ethnic discrimination exists in the Philippines in a variety of contexts, influencing access to opportunities, resources, and the social benefit. This means it still happens. This discrimination, some groups may have fewer opportunities, like sa mga trabaho, educations, or social benefits. Kung sa Bisaya pa, dili tanan patas ang chance, especially for minority groups, like mga small groups lang good. So, yeah, discriminate na sila. Next is the criminal justice system. The idea explains how race or ethnicity may influence how people are treated in the criminal justice system. So this means that the third is social satisfactions. This means show how wealth and power are not equally shared. Some ethnic groups have more access to land, resources, o services kaysa sa uban. The criminal justice system, this shows that the race ethnicity can influence how people are treated. This includes issues like racial profiling based or inequality law enforcement. Murabag mas dali ma-judge ang uban depending on their backgrounds. Like importante sila background sa katao. So yeah. Next is the cultural identity and conflict. This means that the idea in the Philippines, the racial and ethnic identity shapes cultural practices, language, and customs. It means happens because the Philippines has many cultures, language, and traditions. Sometimes dili magkasinapot ang mga groups or mga lugar here in the Philippines because of difference in beliefs and traditions or their customs. You know. So here in the Philippines, tanan rikay, they have lots of beliefs and cultures. So lastly is the social movement. This means understanding race conflict theory will help you better understand social movement in the Philippines that advocate for the rights and the representation of minority ethnic or racial groups. So this means in the Philippines rise to protect the rights of indigenous or ethnic groups. These movements promote equal treatment, culture preservation, and justice. So, in overall, simple explanation in one thought, race conflict theory helps us to understand why some ethnic groups in the Philippines have more advantage than others and how history, discrimination, and cultural difference create conflict and equality today's generations or today's year. Yeah, that's all.
Good day everyone, I am Zayla Jane de Carlos Viñas and today I'll be explaining the conflict theory of deviance in a simple and easy way. Conflict theory says that deviance is not just about the people breaking rules. Instead, it's about power. Specifically, how those in power decide what is right, wrong, normal, or deviant. Different groups in society have different levels of powers. And the stronger groups often create rules that benefit them while controlling others. First, under labeling and social control. Conflict theory tells us that dominant groups are the ones who decide which behaviors are considered deviant. For example, The rich or those in political power can label certain actions as bad even if those actions are common among ordinary people. These labels are used as a way to control people. Second, the theory connects deviance to social inequality. People who have fewer resources, like the poor, minorities, and powerless groups, are more likely to be called deviants because society is already unequal. Power dynamics shape who gets judged more harshly. Third, the criminal justice system is seen as a tool used by those in power. Conflict theorists believe that laws are not always fair. Instead, they are often designed to protect the interests of the powerful while punishing the weak. This is why some crimes get heavy punishment while bigger acts by powerful people sometimes get ignored. Fourth, resistance in social movements shows other sides of deviance. Sometimes being deviant is actually a form of fighting back, like when people join movements against discrimination or injustice. Deviance in this sense becomes a tool for change. Lastly, conflict theory examines how media and culture shape our idea of deviance. Media often portrays certain groups as dangerous or problematic while protecting the image of powerful groups. This influence how society sees deviance behavior. So the conflict theory teaches us the deviance is not just about breaking rules. It's deeply connected to power, inequality, and control. Those who have power decide what counts as deviant, and those without powers are more likely to be labeled and punished.
So, power elite theory proposed by sociologists Sir Wright Mills investigates how a tiny group of people, often from a political, economic, and military separates, have substantial power in influencing society, influencing a variety of issues, including crime, coalitions. So, power theory, this theory by C. Wright Miles explains that a small group of powerful people, usually from politics, business, and the military, hold major influence in society. Because of their power, they can shape decision, politicize, and even condition related to crime. And A. Political influence. In the Philippines, certain influential political families or dynasties exert considerable power influencing legislation, law enforcement goals, and resource distributions. In the Philippines, powerful political families or dynasties have a strong influence in laws, government decisions, law enforcement goals, and the distributions or of resources. Their political power allows them to control many aspects of society. B. Economic dominations. The idea also considered economic power in the Philippines. A few affluent families or conglomerates frequently control key business and resources. So, understanding a few wealthy families or large business groups and control major industries and resources, this gives them economic power, which allows them to influence government actions, policies, and the country economic directions. C. Media control and perceptions management. The elites control and influence over media channels may alter popular perceptions of crime. So when elites control media outlets, they can shape public opinion, control narratives, and reduce negative attention on themselves after allies. D. Influence on law enforcement. This could lead to uneven treatment with crimes involving the elite or those related to them receiving less sequence or sulfur penalties than identical misdeeds committed by others. So, because of their high status or connections, elite may receive unequal treatment from law enforcement. Crimes involving them or their associate may get less investigation, lighter penalties, or more protection compared to case involving ordinary citizens. A. Policing, making, and social inequality. Policies and emotion influenced by the power elite may exacerbate social inequality. So, policies created or influenced by the elite often benefit those already in power. This can increase social inequality where the rich get richer and the poor continues to struggle due to unfair system or uneven opportunities. That's all and thank you.
Okay, so postmodern theories of crime accusations seek to interpret criminal behavior through the perspective of complex social and cultural elements, as opposed to traditional explanations. So, this slide discusses the importance of postmodern theory in understanding causation. It emphasizes that postmodern theories interpret criminal behavior by considering complex social and cultural elements. Unlike traditional explanations, postmodern theories seek to understand crime from multiple perspectives and recognize the influence of societal narratives. Next is media perception and crime. So, postmodern theory emphasizes the role of media portrayals in shaping perceptions of crime and criminal conduct. So, this slide highlights the role of media perception and crime within the postmodern framework. It also explains that media portrayals shape how society perceives crime and criminal behavior. So these slides also introduce the concept of global forms. So next is um, power dynamics and crime narratives. Studies how power dynamics shape crimes narratives. And next is fluidity of truth and reality. Postmodernism challenges the existence of universal truth and mhm, yeah. So um, this focuses on the concept of power dynamics and the fluidity of truth in postmodern thought. It discusses how power relationships and shape criminal narratives and influence suicidal responses to crime. Additionally, it explores the idea that truth and reality are not fixed but are constantly challenged and reconstructed, like emphasizing the fluid of subjective nature of knowledge and postmodernism. And that's all.